Be sure to subscribe for your chance to win a custom leather playmat when we hit 2,500 subscribers. Alright, so we had some requests for a little bit of a rant about the Walking Dead cards and what it kind of means for Wizards of the Coast, for Hasbro, for the market in general. I'm going to go over the cards and what I think the implications are. So we'll start out talking about the actual singles, and spoiler alert, I don't think any of them are playable. We'll see. I could be wrong, but they really just, overall, the mana costs I think are too high for what they are, and it just doesn't look like constructed quality cards to me. Now, I do think they'll be playable in Commander, but everything's playable in Commander. It's really just a matter of having fun. It's the entire purpose of the format, and I think it's definitely incorrect when you're talking about Commander to be looking at like super spiky tournaments. Generally just doesn't work out. I think CEDH players are fortunate that it's not a Pro Tour format. They get to have fun and feel spiky, but like the reality is it's not being played for huge prizes. It's mostly still fun. So maybe I'll do another video about what CEDH is really looks like to me. But let's get into these cards. Negan the Cold-Blooded, the 4/3 for 5. Now, starting with him, because there were some people that were upset that a killer who did terrible things appeared on a Magic card. I have no sympathy for that point of view. I really don't. I guess if you disagree and you want to hear out my argument and respond to it in the comments, that's totally welcome. A killer is not on a Magic card. This is a fictional character. This is a story, and stories go beyond just the surface level. Like, we use stories to engage with all sorts of ideas, with all sorts of feelings that we have as humans. And, you know, you take a kid to a movie theater, they can figure out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. Like, this is hardwired stuff into what it means to be a person. We think about our lives as stories. So they are way deeper than is obvious at all. Like, the stories are an integral part of the human experience. And the notion that we shouldn't have bad guys in stories, I think is just asinine. Like, I don't even know how to address it seriously. I think it's a non-serious idea. I think it's ridiculous. And I couldn't be more disappointed to see that type of idea taken seriously. Like, I think it is a ridiculous, ill-informed, poorly constructed thought. Like, it's just fails on every level. I know it's super harsh, but it's a story. He's not a murderer. No one was harmed. So the idea that he should be banned, I think, is actually just, I think it's a laughable idea, and it should be derided. Like, it's actually just like such a misalignment of values, such a lack of understanding of reality that I don't even know how to engage with that idea, other than that is incredibly ill-formed and in an ill-socialized perspective. Like, I don't know what to do with that. You know, stories have bad guys. They do bad things. Stories should also be able to engage in dark and disturbing subject matter because they are stories. These are not real things. Similarly, games are a safe place where you can do things. You can essentially beat the crap out of your friends in games without actually harming them. That's another thing about games. You can betray people, you can stab them in the back, you can beat them up, you can maul them, you can do all of these things without actually harming them, because words are not violence. It's a really important distinction. This is playtime stuff, and I think it's really important that humans can engage in that and have fun with that and have a clear delineation in between fantasy and reality. And I just see that eroding. So, big aside right off the bat there, but Negan has never murdered anybody. There is a story with a character named Negan, and he does terrible things, and it makes for riveting storytelling in the comic, in the show, for the viewers and the people that interact with that media. It casts moral questions, his methods, utilitarianism, philosophy. That's the type of thing that we should be engaging with, is questioning the morality of hypotheticals and not somehow being offended for imaginary victims. I mean, I just could not believe that point even gets addressed in the commander response to not banning these cards. They came out and talked about, the fact that, well, Negan's a bad guy, but freaking Yawgmoth is like a genocidal character. Like, these are awful things. We have cards like murder, like terrible things can happen in stories. It's not the real world. So Negan, he's a 4/3, brilliantly executed in terms of the storyline. He's going to kill 1 or 2 creatures, which is a perfect mechanical expression of the difference between the comic and the show. And as somebody pointed out, you get a treasure when an opponent sacrifices a creature, which is a nod to the fact that the saviors are stealing the treasure/food of the other survivors, and which is part of the great experience you have reading these stories, is processing the morality of these systems. It's not that different than real world systems that exist now, the consent of the governed. These are ways that we can hypothetically interact with greater moral issues. Rick's Steadfast Leader is one that's got people a little discombobulated. 4 mana for a 3/4. When he enters the battlefield, your guys are going to get 2 abilities, First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink, and your humans have these abilities. And as long as you have 4 or more humans, your humans get +2/+2, a nod to his leadership and teamwork and the, ape stronger together if we're going to mix franchises. But it's a 4-drop. I don't see it happening. It feels like win more in Death and Taxes. I mean, it's not even good in Death and Taxes, I don't think. I don't think they've got enough humans. But in the humans legacy deck, even that, I don't see it. I really don't. 4 mana, I mean, maybe a 1-of? I mean, are we going to get bent out of shape about a 1-of in a barely played legacy deck? I mean, I seems to me like the world has actual problems that are far greater than that, and it's not likely to actually matter in a tournament setting. Daryl, Hunter of Walkers, 4 mana for a 4/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, your target opponent creates 3 Walker tokens, and he can tap to do 2 damage to target creature. And whenever a zombie an opponent controls dies, you draw a card. I mean, kind of like a group hug-ish commander, but only 2 colors. So I could see that seeing some play in some fun commander games. Glenn, the Voice of Calm, 3 mana for a 1/3 with Skulk. Shadow Mage Infiltrator hasn't been good for a very long time, and whenever this guy deals combat damage, you draw cards equal to its power. We've had a Selkie, I think it is, that does this same thing at like 2 mana. I don't think it's actually going to be good enough for tournament play. Maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see. I think people probably can get away with this in Commander. Michonne, the Ruthless Survivor here, at 5 mana for a 3/3. You get 2 walkers when she enters the battlefield. And as long as she's equipped, she must be blocked. And whenever Michonne and at least 2 zombies attack, she gains indestructible. A nod to the fact that the walkers keep her safe in the show from other zombies, other walkers, I guess, as they distract. They distract from like her. She just seems like one of the pack, is how that ends up playing out. Lucille is the spoiled card. Legendary equipment for 2. Creature gets +2/+0 and Menace, which is very on flavor in terms of the sound of it. Lucille, a very menacing card or weapon in the show. And when equipped, a creature attacks, defending player sacks a creature, and you get a walker, which is what happens in that universe when you die. And I think that's a fun flavor fit. The walker tokens, interesting in that they are zombies, but they're named walker, so things like Echoing Truth won't interact the same as your other zombie creation. And they've got some art from the show from key walkers. The first one there from the very first episode when Rick stumbles upon a walker and is trying to piece together the world as it is. And then the Well Walker from Season 2, I think. Maybe Season 3. They spent a long time on the farm. I'm going to say Season 2, where they end up having a pretty horrific interaction there with a zombie caught in the well, or walker caught in the well. And then last card from the set, this treasure, which is got Rick's hat, which is in the comics something that Carl very much treasures. And I guess in the show, his daughter Judith ends up kind of switching roles. We'll see if they age her up in the future episodes. So those are the cards. So what are we at? Like almost 11 minutes going over the cards there. My thoughts overall on the cards is, if they're good, Wizards will end up reprinting them. If they're actually like needed for tournament play, Wizards is not going to pass on the ability to get some extra money out of this. If people are really, really wanting it, they'll put it in booster packs. It won't be necessarily Glenn, but it'll be some similar card. Same with Rick. They can print, Audric or something instead of Rick to have those abilities. And you know what? You end up with 2 of them in a commander deck. That's the drawback. World's not perfect. I personally, as I am, and also if I was at Hasbro, would be totally fine making that small sacrifice to get more players into the game, to get more attention onto the game. I'd value the new players more than an occasional player being upset because there's a card that he doesn't like the flavor of. And the parallel that I want to draw here is Portal 3 Kingdoms. There is pretty much nothing supernatural about P3K. It is really not a Magic the Gathering set any more than The Walking Dead, aside from this one card, Zodiac Dragon, which literally doesn't even have flying. It's just an 8/8. The set is so grounded in reality that they got rid of flying altogether and just went with a new mechanic called horsemanship, which is permanently in the game and functions differently than flying. So this is like a new mechanic on top of it, whereas these other cards are mechanically unique, but they're not really adding anything really that different than what we've seen before. Horsemanship was a completely new thing, and I just have to feel like if this came out today, people would be all sorts of up in arms. It would be the same. It was a complete booster set, like a full-blown set that is legal now in all sorts of sets. And initially, I guess I probably should have thought about this before I started the video, because Portal 1 and 2 were not tournament legal for quite a long time, nor was Starter, and then they eventually made everything legal. I don't know that Portal 3 Kingdoms was legal at first. I don't think it actually was. So that's interesting. Fair enough. I guess I'm bringing up another point to contend with there. But were P3K to come out today as a tournament legal set, I think people would have a problem with it. And it was initially, let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, but initially this was not a legal set and then became legal. And nothing fell apart. Like, it was okay. Like, these cards are, again, not really super tournament playable. They do say play in Commander, but it's not really like people are complaining about that fact. So it's not so much that it's not a fantasy world, because it's really not. It's not a fantasy world. This is basically just a different time period in our world. I don't know. I think The Walking Dead is a separate fantasy world, so it's got that different element of it. It's kind of modeled after our world. It is modeled after our world. But I just think this is a close enough similarity to take a look at. The fact that we already had a complete set, which has really nothing to do with the world of Magic the Gathering. There's no planeswalking. There's no magic. The closest thing would be a dragon. And it's a one of that doesn't fly. And also doesn't even work really as printed at the time. Like, that card, like, in theory, would just be a KO with Wild Mongrel. You'd be able to just discard it, and it would just keep returning back to your hand. Maybe that's a templating thing. Maybe it's power level errata. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to put some more thought into that to determine if it's actually power level errata or not, because there are plenty of things that would just want to discard a card that comes back immediately. I mean, every single discard card that has discard as a cost would be all over that. So they did kind of nerf that potentially. But I mean, that's my 2 cents on this. Is at the end of the day, Portal 3 Kingdoms, nothing to do with Magic the Gathering. It still exists in the Magic universe. People play it in Commander. People are not salty about it. And I suspect that in the future, it's going to be similar. I think 5, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, those Walking Dead cards are going to be a novelty, an interesting thing. And I don't see them running completely off the rails and doing non-stop team-ups. Maybe I'm wrong. There's been some pushback on this. Maybe they'll adjust and just do different alternate art in the future. But I just don't think the sky is falling whatsoever. I think that the arguments about Negan being a bad guy are not really valid. And I don't know if I'm missing any other talking points here. Oh, the market. Like, the cards not being available is just straight up incorrect. Like, they're going to be available. Period. Like, the market gets cards to people. If you need any Magic card, I can get it for you. I probably have it. If I don't, I can definitely get it for you. And the market's going to move these Walking Dead cards around, no problem. They're $50 a pop for the box sets. People are going to be buying extra. I got a bunch in. I'll be selling the singles. I'll be looking for like probably a 1 to 5 year appreciation on these. I'm not going to just sell them all immediately. Like if the price on them is $100 by next Christmas, not this upcoming Christmas, it comes out in like January. So if it's like $100 at Christmas, I'm not just going to fire sale everything at $100 and double up. I'm going to move some of them out slowly and just kind of move them out slowly over the years. Like eventually, probably ends up being a $200 product, maybe more. Who knows? The OMG Kitties is $200 if you're not looking to fire sale it. It's going to be in the mid hundreds if you're kind of going more with the market value, maybe as low as like $125. But I mean, they've closed out at $2 before, and there's a precedent there for a secret lair to be able to command that type of value in the market, and this could be one of them. On the financial side, in terms of what type of risk I'm taking on there, I think it's at most like a $25 gamble. When you're taking $50 out of your pocket on a product like this, an absolute disaster would be a loss of 50% of the value, which I think is how you would want to calculate this type of risk, where if you're spending $50, you're not going to go to zero. Like it's not like there's any type of situation where the Walking Dead cards are a legit brick. Like people are going to want the food token, probably a few bucks on that. The legendary creatures, a few bucks on those. Maybe people alter them to make them look more fantastical, which is fine. Like if you really hate these cards and you want to play them in your deck, but you hate the art, you can just get an artist to alter them. You don't like the fact that Daryl has a crossbow for whatever reason, even though there's already crossbows in fantasy settings. I mean, it does look pretty modern. So does the chain link fence. These do have a modern aesthetic to them, but you can always alter them, which is totally fine. And then, your group doesn't have to be so salty about it. The effects of them are not overpowered, and I just don't think it's really a particularly big deal. I mean, I don't like the look of them, but I also didn't really care for the look of P3K at first. I like it now because it's aged well and I'm kind of used to it, but when it came out, like I wasn't thrilled with the idea that it wasn't a Magic set, but I was a tournament player, so I didn't really care very much. Like I had my goals, and that was not something that I was going to spend my time on. So this one went on a while. Hopefully I got most of my thoughts out there. Let me know what you think. If there's any points on this that I didn't address, and if you guys ever want to try any type of live video like this, we can give that a go as well. Kind of directly answering stuff. We'll need to do something when we hit 2,500 subscribers. We're giving out the leather playmat. Probably do like a AMA or something live through the channel. So thanks for watching, and let me know if there's any other topics you want me to be covering. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.